All right, today in 3D printing, I'm going to get you introduced to TinkerCAD, and we're going to do that by building a keychain. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our name and we are going to make it into a keychain that we can print off. First thing you do, once you've logged into TinkerCAD and you start a new project, you're going to see the screen's going to look like this. TinkerCAD gives these random names to its item or to things you make in it. First thing you're going to do is you are going to change the name. And please have Keychain in there somewhere. Please also have your name in there somewhere so I know who made it. One of the hardest things is when everyone names their project like Big Box, and then I don't know who made what. So please always make sure your name is in the stuff that you make. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can manipulate TinkerCAD in order to make a keychain. I'm going to show them to you. For moving stuff around in TinkerCAD, if you left click and drag, you get the selection option. It's not selecting anything because there's nothing on my work plane right now. If you right click and drag, you can rotate around. You can also left click and rotate the box up at the top, or in fact, you can click on the box in order to get the in order to make the view align in a particular way. And you can zoom in and out using your mouse wheel. So what we're going to do is we are going to use some of the preset objects in TinkerCAD, and we're going to use that to build our name tag. Oh, and also, yeah, I forgot what the key is. There is also a way to pan left and right. So what we're going to do on the right-hand side, there's going to be an option called text. Now, you're going to drag that out, and you can do this multiple different ways. You'll see that when this pops up, you can actually change the text here. So I could change it to say hand forth, and it'll nice and evenly space it out. However, if you want to make things a little bit more customized, you could also drag out one for each letter. And that might seem like a lot of more work because it is, but if you want to make your thing look more unique, you want your keychain to have a unique shape to it, this is a good way to get that. You don't have to be constricted by what's happened. So I'm going to put my H and A like that, and I'm going to try and drag it. Undo is Control Z like it normally is. You can also center your view screen by pressing either the F button on a selected object or clicking this button over here on the left. So I'm going to pull out a couple of letters, and I'm actually going to combine some stuff here together so you see what types of things you can do in TinkerCAD. You do not need to do your name tag the same way that I'm doing it. I'm just trying to show you some tools. So what I've done is I've got the H, A, N, and D in my last name all taken out. And you'll notice that I have them overlapping. The reason that I have them overlapping like this is I'm going to combine them all together into one shape. I can press Group or Control G. Group is this button up here with the combined circle and square, or I can press Control G, and this combines them together into one object here. Why would I want to do that? Well, when I print an object on a 3D printer, you don't want things to be hanging off. The reason you don't want things to be hanging off is that if they're not connected, they won't print as a single object. They'll print as separate objects, and then you have a whole bunch of letters instead of a keychain. Now, I don't want to make everything totally up and down, so I'm going to take the last 5 letters of my name I am going to connect the F and the D together, but now all of these letters are disconnected, right? They don't fit together like the other ones did. So what I'm going to do is I am going to combine them together. And I'm going to do that by manipulating this cube. So you can change the shape of any object in here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the height down. Reason I'm dropping the height down is so that everything's nice and even. So you can see the heights and width and length are always measured in millimeters. And I can see right here, okay, this is 10 millimeters high, and I can physically see that. It's the same height as all of the letters. What I'm also going to want to do is I'm going to want to narrow it. And that's because for what I'm thinking of doing, I want to extend the F all the way across. Now, you'll notice here that it doesn't quite line up. So I can change the scale of my grid. And what that's going to allow me to do is I can use the number pad to just nudge it back and forth until it lines up the way I want it to. You can be really, really picky in 3D printing. I'm going to encourage you not to be too much of a perfectionist. I've found in the past that when people get really perfectionist with this, they often get lost in it instead of just working on it and enjoying it and having fun. So this now is passing through the F, the R, and the O. So I'm going to group those together. And I'm actually going to change this entire thing's color so I can see that it's a different object still than my first four letters. Ooh. Sometimes if you double click, you can actually see an object that it's made out of. And I just actually ungrouped it there because I want to copy that again, and I want to use that a second time. So I don't really want to have to remake the entire rectangle. It's not perfect, but when we get it off the 3D printer, no one's going to tell the difference. So that's another reason. Don't be too perfectionist. Just enjoy creating as much as you can. We can worry about everything else in due time. And I'm going to shorten this up by grabbing on this black one here. You can grab on the white ones in the corner as well, but that's going to move both values at the same time. I don't want to move both values at the same time. I try to always limit to changing one axis at a time. Change the X or change the Y or change the Z. Don't try to change everything at once because oftentimes it'll do things you don't intend it to. So I've just grouped all of that together. And now, since they're both connected through the D and the F, I'm going to group the entire thing together as well. Now, this in and of itself, I could 3D print it off, and that's my last name. But you might want to do more than that. If you want to make it a keychain needs a ring. So grab a torus from the left-hand side. Now, I'm going to show you a trick with changing the sides of those corners. And actually, you can do this with the sides as well. If I want to change everything proportionally, so if I want to increase the height and the length by the same amount as I increase the width, hold down Shift and drag. And now everything will change in the same way. If I let go of Shift before I'm done and I start moving it around, it's going to go back to this. It'll just go up and down and left and right. But if I hold Shift down, and I can actually press down Shift mid-drag, everything will change proportionally to one another. And I'm just going to make that overlap with the H there. You'll notice that it's not quite as high, but what I have done, if I've done this right, let me check. Yeah, what I have done is that everything is still lying flat. So you really want everything to lie flat on the plane because that makes life on the printer a lot easier. You can see that here. Everything is lying nice and flat. So I don't have the same height because I don't really need it for the ring. You can to lay flat. Don't go super narrow. A big mistake that people often make when they're doing stuff in 3D CAD is they try to make these narrow, intricate details that the 3D printer can't necessarily handle. If you have a good one and if you know what you're doing, they can, but just try and take it easy. Restrain yourself for now. We'll work about all of the crazy details later. So I'm going to group those together again. I now have one great big item that I can print off as my name tag. In order to get that, I'm going to need to click on export. And it doesn't really matter between what file type as long as you pick the OBJ or the STL. However, STLs are preferred. OBJ is short for object. It's one of the file types that you can use to read 3D files, and then STL is short for stereolithogram, which is another common type of file. The .glb doesn't really get used a lot. Don't use it. STL is generally preferred, so you can click on STL. It will take some time to export it, and then you will see it downloaded at the bottom, and that is what you're going to hand in at the end of the day.